So we're going to move on to our next speaker of the day now. I'm really, really excited to hear from him because he's going to be talking to us about how to carve out a career in the rapidly growing Web 3.0 market. So we're talking things like NFTs, crypto, the metaverse, all that stuff that we're seeing come up in the media more and more and more. He's an experienced blockchain enthusiast. He's a consultant to global crypto-based companies, and he's a founder and chief visionary officer at Seyi, which is an luxury NFT marketplace. So please welcome to the stage, Seyi Awotunde.
Good afternoon, everybody. Completely a real pleasure to be here. I just want to do one thing first. I want to congratulate everybody for actually being here, because it's quite a big deal. Of all the things you could have been doing today, you chose to be here. And also a massive round of applause for the team behind today who have put in so much hard work to be here. And yeah, guys, my name is Seyi Awotunde. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer behind the company called Seyi. So Seyi in Latin means luxury. And for me, I want to kind of take you guys on a little bit of a journey. So this journey is actually ironically my journey and how I got to where I am today. And I'm not going to give you the whole journey, but we'll fast forward to the pandemic. And I think everybody kind of remembers that. A lot of us were stuck at home, wondering ultimately what was going to be the next move for us. And for me, at that moment in time, I actually decided to start a garden and landscape business, which is ironically quite different to tech. But you fast forward by a few months, and then I was faced with a predicament of what was I going to do with money that I was bringing in. And for me, I wanted to bring in multiple streams of income. So one of the things that kind of really interested me was blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Now, I know cryptocurrencies has a predominantly bad name. People are like, oh, it's crashed. I know some people are probably laughing at me as I've probably even said it. But for me, one of the interesting things was more the technology behind it. And the thing that's called smart contracts, that's something that for me I found very, very revolutionary. So what I'm going to do now is if we look at that in terms of that, if we look at like the very start of that. So in the beginning of last year, I got in and it was initially off the premises of actually investing. So I was like, okay, I want to buy this so-and-so NFT. And the rationale behind it was that I've collected art for a very long time. And for those that are aware, NFTs, in a lot of cases, are digital artwork. And I think that, for me, I found very interesting, because I was like, okay, I personally collect art, but now I have the opportunity to do it in a way where I can actually potentially monetize it, because I could potentially sell it on for a profit. You look at that first one which I bought it, I'll go into the actual details of it. I bought it for what's equivalent of $49. Which by no means think of it as like a Chinese takeaway. But the reason behind why I bought it was more that I was more fascinated with, like, if I set some parameters around it, I feel like it would do well. So one, if I felt like there was what I feel was like a social proofing, whereby beyond just the NFT, I felt like that person behind it would actually stand the test of time, where it would mean something to hold their piece of work. And then secondly, looking at it from a standpoint of where was the opportunities for that person to potentially grow. And in picking this particular piece, I bought it for that $49. And what was quite interesting was I bought it to keep. But then if you fast forward 3 days, the person who actually created it messaged me and said, Seyi, have you seen the bid on your piece? I was like, bid on my piece? What do you mean? It's not for sale. But someone had bid $64 on it. And by no means of the imagination, $64 is going to change anyone's life, no. But can I get a row of, maybe a hand in the air for anyone that can tell me or show me something, or a bank, that'll give you what's equivalent of 29% interest in 3 days? Anybody? No. So with that, it kind of really got my real attention, because now I was like, okay, no, there's obviously something here. Then what happened was, in actually advertising that piece out and putting it in a few groups, that same guy went on to sell a further 3 pieces. Those 3 pieces, though, didn't just sell at $100 each. They actually sold at $800 each. bearing in mind I bought his first piece, would you all agree with me that arguably mine's worth those ones there? So that all happened in under 2 weeks. Then I said, right, I need to really understand this space more. And I owe it to myself to do some research and actually understand what's going on here. And I think one of the things that's particularly really interesting with this space is NFTs aren't just limited to digital artwork. It can be crypto domain names. So if you're familiar with like the whole big .com boom, we've got the exact same kind of similar thing within cryptocurrencies where you can buy domains. So where you can buy Nike.com, you can also buy things like Nike.Ethereum in hindsight and so on and so forth. You also have stuff like virtual lands. We hear so much about the metaverse and how exciting that space is. And believe me, it really and truly is. But with that, again, the digital land kind of has the same premise which you have when you're buying physical land. It's similar in the mindset of location, location, location. So it's like, what area is it in? What else is within that same vicinity? And I say that because if you look at the end of last year, someone bought virtual land, which was across the virtual road from Snoop Dogg, for $500,000. And for me, this was something that was really a big eye-opener, I would say. With all of that, it kind of took me to a place whereby initially where I was collecting and I'd made money from that, I said, how can I actually have impact in this space? And for me, where that came in was first centered around education. So I said, I want to educate as many people in this space as possible. Whilst I know so many incredibly talented people, I've always felt like, for instance, creators have never gotten a share slice of the pie. So they would create a piece. You could sell it for argument's sake £1,000, which of course is a lot of money. But if in 5 years' time that piece goes on to sell for $1 million, they don't really get any of that sell. Or in the event that they do, and it's 3% that in the typical art world. Whereas with the smart contracts, you have the ability to apply royalties. And the royalties apply to every single secondary sale. And it's of the value of up to 30%, but it's pretty much market standard that people do between 5 to 15%. And for me, that was something I found just truly remarkable. And on that, we have a very young lady called Lizzie, who's based out in Canada. And she's actually one of the first people who I taught about NFTs. And I thought one of the things that was really inspiring on her journey is she sold her first NFT for $5,000. But where for me, that's an incredible lot of money to sell for your first piece of art. And for me, the nice thing with that is that sense of validation that people actually value her work. And people find that much value that they're willing to spend £5,000. But that's not even the most exciting bit, in my opinion. The most exciting bit was 2 weeks later when she woke up, she said, Seyi, I've just woken up to $500 in my account because someone has resold one of my pieces for $5,000 and I've got a 10% royalty in all the pieces. And for me, that was just like, wow, you haven't lifted a finger and yet you've woken up today with $500. What happens if your piece goes on to sell for millions? And in that case of millions, there's another young guy called Wahid from Afghanistan. 6 years ago, though, moves over to San Francisco. 3 years ago, he gets into using Photoshop. Never done it beforehand, watches a few videos on YouTube, says, I really like animation and I really want to get on this journey. He creates like these pieces which are very sentiment to like, one, his culture, his upbringing, being as he didn't speak English when he went over to America. And there was this way which, I don't know why, but you just liked the boy. Like, he was this really innocent 22-year-old, good head on his shoulders, very polite, very, very meticulous about how he does his work. And he began to grow a following very, very quickly. And that following grew to over 15,000 people. He then decided to create like an NFT collection of 8,000 pieces. And he listed them at, I think it was around $500 each. They sold out in less than 3 days. But in that selling out, he made $5 million. Bear in mind, this was a young immigrant from Afghanistan a matter of years ago. But I think one of the most incredible things on that story was He didn't just sell out the collection. In resales, he made a further $20 million, which for me is in literally life-changing sums of money. And I think one of the most beautiful things in speaking to him was that whilst he made all this money, the first thing he wanted to do was buy his mum a house. And I think that's just really powerful, and it kind of shows you the kind of, for me, the fortitude and the opportunities within this space when you truly understand what's within there. And then looking at all of that, kind of now centering back to myself, I saw an opportunity. So I looked at the whole space and said, within all of this, there's so many different opportunities, whether I wanted to go and focus on build my own coin, whether I wanted to build a DeFi product. But I said, actually, within this NFT space, I really feel one of the strong things around it is centered around community. And having taught so many people and built, for instance, a WhatsApp group of over 250 people, I said, I owe it to all of these people and all these creatives that I know to actually create my own platform. But do it in a way whereby, looking at the space, it felt like a lot of the platforms were very reminiscent of like an eBay. And that's not to knock eBay. eBay is, of course, a very incredible platform. But I said, how about, if we look at this technology and we're seeing so many digital assets being sold via this smart contract, I said, how about using that smart contract to actually sell like actual physical products? Or whether actually experiences as well, and actually tying that all-encompassing proposition into one platform, but then actually merging that with the metaverse as well and creating what's called Delicier. On that, it's been an incredible journey in terms of actually just building a platform from scratch. Also raising capital. Having never raised capital beforehand, I went on to raise £100,000, which enabled me to build my MVP, and in the process, secure some pretty incredible NFTs and some pretty incredible opportunities. I got to speak to Jay-Z's manager, Rock Nation, which was, again, a very incredible opportunity. I got to work with some really incredible brands, and all centered around me just taking the time to actually educate myself. And then with that, it was also centered around actually building the platform. And with the platform, it's called Delicier, so it's centered around connecting the NFT community with luxury digital, physical, and experiential NFTs. So in terms of physical NFTs, it's referring to stuff like 18-karat gold membership cards, it's stuff like engagement rings, it's stuff like there's a festival in the Maldives that I've partnered up with recently. So really trying to create that elevated experience, because for me, that was what was lacking in the space. And for me, it's such an exciting space to really and truly be in. I'm Seyi Awotunde. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you guys today. If anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch.